The sun was sinking behind tall buildings when Aisha walked back from the small bakery where she worked. Her shoes were worn out, and the bag she carried was nearly empty. For weeks, she had been saving every coin to buy her mother's medicine. Her mother, Fatima, was weak and ill, but she still smiled whenever she saw her daughter come home. Life had never been easy for Aisha. She was only 19, yet she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her father had passed away years ago, and ever since then, she and her mother had lived in a small, rented room. To pay the rent, Aisha worked long hours at the bakery, cleaning tables and carrying trays. People barely noticed her, but she never complained. Her mother was her world, and as long as she could see her smile, Aisha felt strong enough to fight any battle. But that evening, something unexpected happened. As she reached the narrow street that led to their home, she saw two black cars parked outside. Men in dark suits were standing near the door of her house. Aisha's heart raced. She rushed forward, but before she could reach the door, one of the men blocked her way. "Are you Aisha?" he asked in a stern voice. "Yes," she replied, confused and afraid. "Your mother has a debt," the man said coldly. "She borrowed money from our employer. Since she cannot pay, she has been taken." Aisha's eyes widened in shock. "Taken? Where? Who are you?" The man did not answer. He only gave her a card with an address and said, "If you want to see her again, come here tomorrow morning." Tears filled Aisha's eyes as the cars drove away. She rushed into the small house, calling for her mother, but the room was empty. Only the old chair where Fatima usually sat remained. Aisha sank to the floor, holding the card tightly in her trembling hand. That night, she could not sleep. She kept thinking about her mother and the strange men. Who was their employer? Why would he take her mother? She prayed silently, asking for strength and courage. The next morning, Aisha put on her simple blue dress, the only clean one she had left, and walked to the address written on the card. It led her to a grand mansion on the edge of the city. The tall gates were guarded, and the house looked like something out of a dream. She had never seen such wealth in her life. When she entered, she was guided through wide halls decorated with paintings and golden lights. Finally, she was taken into a large room where a man sat in a wheelchair. His face was calm but serious, and his eyes studied her carefully. He looked to be in his early 30s. Though he wore expensive clothes, there was a sadness in his expression. "I am Zayn," the man said. His voice was deep but gentle. "Your mother owes me money. She could not repay, so she was brought here." Aisha's heart pounded. She stepped forward, her hands shaking. "Please, sir, she is innocent. She only borrowed for her medicine. Let her go. Take me instead. I will work for you, I will do anything, but please let my mother go free." Zayn raised an eyebrow. He had heard many people beg before, but there was something different about this girl. Her eyes were filled not with fear, but with determination. "Anything?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Aisha whispered. "Anything." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, Zayn gave a small smile, almost bitter. "Do you know who I am?" Aisha shook her head. "I am Zayn Malik, the billionaire everyone talks about. But what they don't say is this." He tapped his wheelchair lightly. "I am paralyzed. Doctors say I will never walk again." Aisha lowered her eyes. She had heard rumors about a rich man who had been in an accident years ago. People said he had everything: money, fame, power, but lost the ability to walk. "And now you stand here," Zayn continued, "promising you can do anything. Tell me, girl, can you heal me?" His words were half mocking, half painful. Aisha looked up, her lips trembling, but her voice steady. "Yes. Let my mother go free, and I will heal you." The guards in the room burst into laughter. Even Zayn gave a dry smile. "You," he said softly. "A poor girl with nothing? You think you can do what the best doctors cannot?" Aisha held her ground. "I don't know how yet. But I will. If it takes my whole life, I will find a way. Just give me the chance." Her voice echoed in the vast room, and for the first time in years, Zayn felt something stir inside him, not hope, but curiosity. The laughter faded, and silence returned. Aisha's challenge hung in the air, bold and impossible, but unforgettable. The room was silent after Aisha's bold words. The guards exchanged doubtful glances, but Zayn kept staring at her. Something in her steady gaze bothered him. People usually bowed before him, begged, or tried to flatter him. But this girl stood with nothing but courage in her eyes. Finally, Zayn spoke. "Do you even understand what you are saying? You offer to heal me when the greatest doctors in the world have failed. Are you making fun of me?" Aisha shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I would never make fun of you. I only mean what I say. If you allow my mother to go free, I will dedicate my life to finding a way to heal you. Maybe I don't know the answer today, but I will search, I will work, and I will not stop until I find it." Zayn's lips curved into a small, cold smile. "You speak big words for a girl who owns nothing." The guards laughed again, but Zayn lifted his hand to silence them. His sharp eyes remained fixed on Aisha. "Tell me, why would you sacrifice your life for your mother? Most people think only about themselves." Aisha took a deep breath. "Because my mother is the reason I live. She raised me when she had nothing. She went hungry so I could eat. She worked when she was sick just to pay for my books. If I let her suffer now, what kind of daughter would I be?" Her voice trembled with emotion, and for a moment, the mansion's cold walls seemed warmer. Zayn leaned back in his wheelchair. Memories from his own childhood flashed in his mind, memories of a mother who once held his hand, who used to tell him bedtime stories. She was gone now, taken by time and sorrow, but he remembered the way she had loved him without condition. A sharp ache touched his heart before he quickly pushed it away. "You are brave," Zayn admitted, "but bravery does not change fate." "Maybe not," Aisha answered softly, "but love can." Zayn's fingers tightened around the armrest of his chair. He could not explain why her words unsettled him. He wanted to laugh again, but instead, he found himself studying her more carefully. Her clothes were plain, her shoes nearly broken, yet there was a light in her eyes that he had not seen in years. At last, Zayn said, "Fine. I will test you. If you pass, your mother will be released. If you fail, she stays." Aisha's heart pounded. "What kind of test?" Zayn's smile was faint, almost unreadable. "You will live here in my house for 1 month. You will work for me, and you will try to prove that your words are not empty. If you can convince me in that time that you truly have the power to heal me, or at least give me a reason to believe you, your mother will walk free." The deal was impossible, but Aisha did not hesitate. She nodded firmly. "I accept." "Very well," Zayn said. He turned to one of the guards. "Keep the mother here in the guest quarters. She will be cared for, but she does not leave until the month ends." The guard bowed and left the room. Aisha's chest ached with worry, but she forced herself to stay calm. At least her mother was alive and safe for now. That was all that mattered. That evening, a maid showed Aisha to a small servant's room at the back of the mansion. It was simple but clean, far better than the tiny place she and her mother had rented in the city. Still, Aisha could not sleep. She thought of her mother, probably frightened in a strange place, and of Zayn, the man who had tied both their fates together. The next morning, she began her work. Zayn demanded that she assist him personally. She helped prepare his meals, read to him from books, and sometimes sat quietly in the room while he worked on his laptop. At first, he hardly spoke to her. He only watched her from the corner of his eye, as if waiting for her to break under pressure. But Aisha did not break. She woke early, worked hard, and remained polite even when Zayn's voice was cold. Whenever he mocked her dream of healing him, she only replied gently, "Time will prove." Days passed. Slowly, Zayn noticed small things about her. She never complained, even when she was tired. She never showed greed, even when she passed through halls filled with treasures. When she spoke of her mother, her voice carried so much love that even his bitter heart grew restless. One evening, Zayn asked suddenly, "Do you hate me for keeping your mother here?" Aisha looked at him with calm eyes. "No. Hate will not free her. Only patience and courage will." Zayn was stunned into silence. That night, long after Aisha left his room, Zayn sat alone by the window of his grand mansion. The city lights glowed outside, but he did not notice them. For the first time in years, his mind was not filled with loneliness or anger. Instead, it was filled with the voice of a poor girl who had nothing yet promised him everything. He whispered to himself, "Can she really heal me? Or is she just a foolish dreamer?" But deep down, he knew something was already changing inside him. The days in Zayn's mansion passed slowly for Aisha. Every morning, she would rise before the sun, say a silent prayer for her mother, and begin her duties. She cleaned the room, arranged his medicines, read books aloud, and sometimes wheeled him to the balcony where he could feel the evening breeze. At first, Zayn hardly spoke to her. He gave short orders and expected them to be followed without question. But Aisha never lost her patience. Whenever he scolded her for being too slow or too careful, she only lowered her head and said softly, "I am learning, sir. Please allow me some time." One afternoon, Zayn finally decided it was time to test her spirit. He called Aisha into his study, a room filled with shelves of books and files. His sharp eyes studied her as she stood nervously near the door. "You speak of healing," he said in a firm tone, "but what do you really know? You are not a doctor, you have no training, and yet you dare to make such promises. Do you expect me to believe in empty words?" Aisha gathered her courage. "No, sir. I don't ask you to believe right away. I only ask you to give me a chance. A chance to try. My heart tells me that nothing is impossible." Zayn's lips curled in a faint smile, half amused, half doubtful. "Very well. Let us see how strong your heart truly is. From today, I will give you tasks. If you complete them, I might believe you. If you fail, your mother will stay here forever." The words hit Aisha like a heavy stone, but she lifted her chin and said firmly, "I accept." That very day, Zayn gave her the first task. "I have a business meeting tonight with important guests. You will prepare everything. Food, seating, arrangements, everything. If one thing goes wrong, the deal will be ruined. Can you handle it?" Aisha's hands trembled slightly. She had never arranged such a grand event before. But she nodded. "Yes, sir." The next hours were filled with chaos. The kitchen staff looked down on her, whispering that a poor girl had no right to lead them. But Aisha stayed calm. She divided the work carefully, checked every detail, and even decorated the dining hall with simple flowers from the garden. When evening came, the guests arrived, men in suits and women in elegant dresses. They greeted Zayn respectfully, and then their eyes moved toward the arrangements. The hall glowed softly with candles, the food was perfectly arranged, and the fragrance of fresh flowers filled the air. Zayn, sitting in his wheelchair at the head of the table, noticed how the guests were impressed. For the first time in years, his meeting ran smoothly, without a single complaint. After the guests left, Zayn called Aisha to his side. His voice was calm, but his eyes held a trace of curiosity. Not bad. I expected you to fail. Aisha smiled gently. When we give our heart to a task, even the hardest things become possible. Zayn turned his face away, hiding the small spark of admiration that touched his heart. The next morning, he gave her another test. I want you to push me to the far hill outside the mansion. It is a long path, steep and tiring. If you give up halfway, you lose. Aisha glanced at the wheelchair, then at the long path stretching beyond the gates. She swallowed hard, but her voice remained steady. I will not give up. And so they began. The sun was hot, the road rough, but Aisha pushed with all her strength. At times, sweat ran down her forehead, and her arms felt heavy, but she kept moving. Halfway up, Zayn said coldly, Enough. You will not make it. Turn back. Aisha shook her head, breathless but determined. No, sir. I will not stop until we reach the top. Something inside Zayn shifted as he watched her. People had always obeyed him, but this girl was different. Her stubborn courage reminded him of someone he once knew himself, before the accident. Finally, after a long struggle, they reached the top. Aisha was exhausted, her hands trembling, but she smiled proudly. We did it. Zayn gazed at the view before them, the city shining in the distance, the wind brushing against his face. For the first time in years, he felt alive. He looked at the girl standing beside him, breathing heavily yet smiling with pure joy. A strange warmth spread through his chest. On the way back, silence filled the air, but it was not the silence of anger. It was the silence of thought, of questions forming in Zayn's mind. That night, alone in his room, Zayn stared at his reflection in the mirror. Why does her courage affect me? Why do her words echo inside me? He whispered. He had always believed money could buy everything. But here was a girl with nothing, no wealth, no education, yet she carried a power that even doctors and scientists did not have: hope. Aisha, in her small servant's room, prayed silently for her mother. She did not know what Zayn truly thought of her, but she knew one thing: every day was a battle, and she would not stop fighting until her mother was free. And perhaps, without realizing it, she was also beginning to heal the wounds of a billionaire's broken heart. The mansion had grown quieter in the days that followed. Zayn had stopped mocking Aisha as often, though he still carried his cold, proud tone. Yet deep inside, something was shifting. Every time he looked at her, he saw more than a poor girl. He saw determination, a kind of strength that reminded him of the man he used to be before life broke him. One evening, Zayn sat by the tall glass window of his study. The city lights glowed in the distance, but he was not looking at them. His eyes were fixed on Aisha, who was arranging books on the lower shelves. She hummed softly, a tune so simple yet soothing that it pulled him out of his thoughts. Why do you always sing when you work? Zayn asked suddenly. Aisha looked up, startled. It keeps my heart calm, sir. When I sing, even a heavy task feels lighter. Zayn raised an eyebrow. Calm? Do you really feel calm here, in this mansion, when your mother is still a prisoner? Her smile faded slightly, but her eyes did not lose their light. My mother is here, alive, and I can see her sometimes. That is enough for now. If I keep faith, one day she will walk free. Until then, I must stay strong. Her words pierced Zayn's heart. He turned his wheelchair away, hiding the sudden ache in his chest. No one had spoken of strength like that around him in years. Everyone treated him as fragile, broken, hopeless. Later that night, Zayn could not sleep. Memories of his accident returned: the sound of screeching tires, the crash, the unbearable pain, and the doctor's voice saying he would never walk again. That day, his world had ended. The people he thought were his friends had slowly drifted away, and he was left alone with his wealth and his wheelchair. The next morning, he surprised Aisha by saying, "Come with me. I want to show you something." He ordered the driver to take them outside the mansion. After a short ride, they reached a quiet garden where few people ever came. It was filled with roses, lilies, and tall green trees. The air smelled fresh, and birds chirped in the branches. "This was my mother's favorite place," Zayn said, his voice softer than usual. "She loved flowers. She used to bring me here when I was a boy. After the accident, I never returned. It only reminded me of what I lost." Aisha looked at him carefully. For the first time, his strong mask had cracks. She saw the pain in his eyes. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked gently. "Because I don't understand you," Zayn replied, staring at the roses. "You are poor, powerless, yet you carry hope as if it is the greatest treasure. When I lost my legs, I lost everything. Hope was the first thing to die. But you carry it as if it cannot be taken from you." Aisha's voice was soft but firm. "Because hope is not given by doctors or taken by accidents. Hope lives here." She touched her chest lightly. "Inside the heart. As long as it beats, hope breathes." Zayn fell silent. The words felt simple, almost childish, yet they struck something deep inside him. That evening, after returning to the mansion, Zayn did something unexpected. He allowed Aisha to visit her mother. The guards escorted her to the guest quarters where Fatima was staying. "Mama!" Aisha cried, running into her arms. Tears filled her eyes as she hugged the frail woman. Fatima smiled weakly, brushing Aisha's hair. "My brave daughter. Are you well? They are treating you kindly." "Yes, Mama," Aisha said quickly, though her throat tightened. "I am working hard. Don't worry. Everything will be fine." Fatima's eyes were filled with quiet trust. "I know, my child. You have always been strong." Zayn watched the scene from a distance. Something heavy pressed against his heart as he saw the bond between mother and daughter. He remembered his own mother again, the gentle way she used to hold his hand, the way she had believed in him no matter what. A sharp longing filled his chest. When Aisha finally left her mother's room, she found Zayn waiting in the corridor. "You could have run away with her," Zayn said slowly. "But you didn't." Aisha met his gaze without fear. "Running away would not heal anything. I gave you my word, and I will not break it." Zayn studied her carefully, then turned his wheelchair away. "You are either the bravest fool I have ever met, or the only honest person left in this world." That night, Zayn could not sleep again. For years, he had lived in bitterness, pushing everyone away. But Aisha was breaking through the walls he had built. Her kindness was like water flowing over stone, gentle, but slowly changing everything. He whispered to himself in the dark, "Maybe, just maybe, she is the one who can heal me. Not my body, but my heart." But he quickly shook the thought away. No, he told himself. It was dangerous to believe. Hope had betrayed him before. Still, deep in his chest, a spark had been lit, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not put it out. The days in the mansion began to change. Where once the halls were filled only with silence and shadows, now there was a new energy. Aisha's presence had softened the cold air. She worked quietly, yet her courage showed in everything she did. Zayn noticed it more than anyone. He watched the way she spoke with the servants, never raising her voice, always helping with the smallest tasks. She treated everyone with respect, no matter their position. It was strange to him. In his world of wealth, people often chased power and status. Yet this girl, who had nothing, carried herself with dignity that money could never buy. Still, Zayn's pride would not allow him to surrender easily. One morning, he called her to the study. His face was calm, but his tone was firm. "Aisha," he said, "you have passed small tests, but life is not made of small things. If you want me to believe in your promise, you must show me that your strength is not just words." "I am ready, sir," Aisha replied, her voice steady. "Very well," Zayn said. "Tomorrow, you will travel with me to the city hospital. I have an important visit there. You will assist me. If you fail to handle yourself in front of doctors and strangers, then I will know your promises are nothing but dreams." Aisha's heart skipped. The hospital was a place she had avoided for years because she could never afford treatment for her mother. But she nodded firmly. "I will not fail." The next day, the car carried them to the city. Zayn sat in his wheelchair, dressed in his usual fine suit, his expression unreadable. Aisha sat quietly beside him, her simple dress neatly ironed, her hands folded tightly on her lap. When they arrived, the doctors greeted Zayn with respect. They discussed new treatments, therapies, and machines that might ease his pain. Aisha stood quietly behind him, listening carefully. She understood little of the medical terms, yet her heart absorbed every word. At one point, a doctor turned to her and asked kindly, "And you are?" "I am here to assist him," Aisha replied nervously. The doctor smiled politely and turned back to Zayn. But Zayn's eyes had not missed the way she answered, humble, respectful, yet with quiet strength. After the meeting, Zayn asked her in the car, "Were you afraid?" "Yes," Aisha admitted honestly. "I was afraid they would laugh at me. But then I remembered my promise. I told myself fear cannot help my mother, and it cannot heal you either. So I stood firm." Zayn turned his face to the window, hiding the strange warmth her words stirred inside him. That evening, back at the mansion, he gave her another challenge. "From tomorrow, you will manage my daily schedule. Meetings, calls, work, everything will go through you first. If one thing goes wrong, you will regret it." It was a heavy responsibility. But Aisha accepted it with a simple nod. Days turned into weeks. She worked tirelessly, managing his papers, answering calls, even reading reports late into the night. At first, the businessmen mocked her soft voice and plain clothes. But slowly, they began to notice her sharp memory and careful attention. Even Zayn's closest advisors were surprised. Zayn himself watched with silent curiosity. Each time she succeeded, his respect for her grew. Yet his pride would not let him admit it. One evening, after a long day, he found her sitting on the balcony, staring at the stars. She did not notice him at first. She was whispering softly, almost like a prayer. "What are you saying?" he asked. Aisha turned quickly, embarrassed. "I was just talking to the stars, sir. When I feel tired, I tell my worries to them. It makes my heart lighter." Zayn studied her in silence. Finally, he said, "Do you ever worry that your hope will break one day?" Aisha shook her head. "Hope does not break, sir. People give up, but hope never leaves. It waits for us to return." For a long moment, Zayn said nothing. Her words touched something deep inside him, something he had buried under years of pain. Later that night, alone in his room, he stared at his motionless legs. For years, they had been a symbol of defeat. But tonight, he wondered, what if Aisha was right? What if hope was waiting for him too? He closed his eyes and remembered the way she had pushed him up the hill, sweating and breathless yet never stopping. No one had ever fought for him like that. Everyone else had given up. But not her. A question rose in his heart, one he had never asked before: was she here only for her mother, or had she truly come to heal him as well? The next morning, Zayn decided to test something else: not her strength, not her patience, but her heart. "Aisha," he said, his voice calm but sharp, what if your mother could be freed today, but only if you walked away and never returned here? Would you leave? Aisha froze. Her heart cried at the thought of her mother's freedom. But her eyes looked straight into his. If I left, you would remain broken inside. My mother would never forgive me for turning my back on another soul in pain. So no, sir. I would not leave. Zayn felt the ground shift beneath him. For the first time, he did not see her as just a poor girl. He saw her as someone stronger than even himself. And in that moment, though he did not admit it aloud, he realized this girl was not only fighting for her mother. She was fighting for him too. The mansion was no longer the same. For years, its wide halls had echoed only with silence and footsteps of servants. But now, there was life inside its walls. It was not because of wealth, lights, or decorations, it was because of Aisha. Zayn felt the change more than anyone. Though he still carried his proud nature, he no longer spoke with the same coldness. Whenever he looked at Aisha, something within him softened, though he refused to admit it. One evening, as the rain tapped against the windows, Aisha entered the study carrying a tray of tea. Zayn was sitting near the fireplace, staring at the flames. His face looked tired, almost heavy with thoughts. You seem troubled, sir, Aisha said gently as she placed the tray on the table. Zayn did not answer at first. Then, after a long pause, he said, do you know what hurts most about losing something? Aisha looked at him, waiting. It is not the pain of losing, he continued slowly. It is watching the world move on while you remain stuck. People used to look at me with respect. Now they look at me with pity. Even when they smile, I can see it in their eyes. They believe I am finished. His voice cracked slightly, though he tried to hide it. Aisha sat down across from him. Her voice was calm, steady. But you are not finished, sir. You are still here. You still have strength, mind, and will. The world cannot decide your worth. Zayn gave a bitter smile. You speak as if it is easy. Tell me, how would you feel if one day you woke up and found that everything you worked for, everything you dreamed of, was gone in a single moment? Aisha lowered her eyes. I would feel broken, sir. But I would also remember that life is not measured only by what is lost. It is measured by what we still have and what we can give. Her words struck him deeply. For years, he had been drowning in self-pity, pushing everyone away. Yet this poor girl, who had nothing, spoke as if she had discovered a treasure greater than wealth. That night, Zayn could not sleep. He remembered the accident again, the moment that had stolen his legs. He had locked the memory away, refusing to speak of it, but now it returned. He saw flashes of himself before the accident, strong, confident, untouchable. Then he saw the crash, the pain, the long hospital days, and the silence afterward. The next morning, he made a decision. When Aisha came to his study, he spoke in a voice quieter than usual. Sit down. I want to tell you something I have never told anyone. She sat carefully, sensing the weight in his tone. I was not always like this, Zayn began. I once believed I was unstoppable. I built my business from nothing. I worked day and night. People admired me, and I admired myself even more. But one mistake, one careless night, and everything ended. He closed his eyes as if the memory burned. It was a car accident. I was driving too fast, too proud to slow down. I thought nothing could harm me. But fate proved me wrong. When I woke up, I could not feel my legs. The doctors said it was permanent. My life, my dreams, my strength all gone. His voice trembled. Aisha's heart ached as she listened. She had never heard him sound so vulnerable. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Aisha spoke softly. It was not your legs that built your success, sir. It was your mind, your determination. Those things are still with you. You lost movement, but you did not lose yourself. Zayn opened his eyes and stared at her. How can you see hope in a life I see as ruined? Because I believe no life is ruined as long as the heart still beats, Aisha replied gently. Sir, maybe you cannot walk now. But you can still rise in other ways. You can inspire. You can guide. You can still live. For a long while, Zayn said nothing. His heart felt heavy, but also lighter, as if a burden he had carried alone was now shared. That evening, he asked Aisha to join him on the balcony. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled fresh. They watched the clouds slowly part, revealing a sky full of stars. Do you ever wish for something when you look at the stars? Zayn asked quietly. Yes, Aisha replied. I wish for my mother's freedom. And I wish for your healing. Zayn turned his gaze to her, his eyes searching hers. Do you truly believe I can be healed? With all my heart, she answered. Healing does not always mean walking again. Sometimes, it means finding peace inside. And I believe you will find it. Zayn's chest tightened. For years, he had locked his heart, refusing to let anyone in. But now, as he looked at this girl who spoke with such pure faith, he felt the walls begin to crack. Later, when Aisha returned to her small room, she prayed once more. Give me strength, O Lord. Let me free my mother. And let me heal his broken soul. And somewhere deep inside the mansion, Zayn sat awake, whispering to himself, perhaps, this girl was not sent here for me to test her. Perhaps she was sent here to save me. The final week of the month had arrived. Aisha had worked tirelessly, proving her patience, courage, and determination at every moment. Zayn had watched her grow stronger with each day, and in the quiet corners of his heart, he felt something he had not felt in years: hope. That morning, Zayn called Aisha into the study. His face was serious, but his eyes held a spark of something new. Tomorrow, he said, your mother will be free if you have proved your words true. Aisha's heart leapt, yet she remained calm. I have done my best, sir. Whatever your decision, I am grateful for the chance. Zayn studied her. Your best is extraordinary. Few could endure what you have endured here. But I need to know, is it truly about your mother, or is it also about me? Aisha met his gaze firmly. It is both, sir. I cannot abandon my mother, but I cannot abandon you either. You are not just a billionaire in a wheelchair. You are a human being who has suffered, and I want to help heal that suffering. Zayn's eyes softened. He had expected hesitation, lies, or flattery, but here was honesty, simple, pure, and unwavering. The next morning, a carriage arrived to take Fatima home. Aisha ran to her mother, tears streaming down her face. Fatima hugged her tightly, whispering, my brave daughter, you have done this for me. Yes, Mama, Aisha said. You are free now. All because of your love and my promise. As they prepared to leave, Zayn appeared at the door. His wheelchair was beside him, but for the first time, his posture felt lighter. Take her safely, he said softly. She is yours again. Fatima turned to him, grateful and humble. Thank you, sir. You have shown mercy, and we will never forget it. Aisha's hand rested on her mother's arm. We will always remember your kindness too. After they left, the mansion felt quiet again. Zayn rolled himself to the balcony and looked out at the city. He had gained wealth, power, and knowledge over his life, but in all those years, no one had reached the broken corners of his heart. That girl, Aisha, had. Days passed, and Aisha continued her work in the mansion, not because she had to, but because she cared. She organized, cleaned, and assisted, but now her presence brought warmth rather than tension. Zayn had begun to speak with her openly, sharing stories of his childhood, of dreams lost and lessons learned. One evening, as they sat together in the garden, Zayn spoke softly. "I have learned something important these past weeks," he said. "I thought wealth and power could fix everything. But they cannot. Only courage, love, and faith can heal the deepest wounds." Aisha smiled gently. "Yes, sir. And everyone has the power to give that healing. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us." Zayn looked at her, and for the first time, he allowed himself to smile without restraint. "I believe in you, Aisha. Not just in what you promised, but in the person you are." Her heart skipped, but she remained calm. "Thank you, sir. That means more than words can say." Weeks passed, and Zayn began small exercises under Aisha's encouragement. He could not yet walk, but he could sit straighter, move his arms more easily, and feel a strength he had not known in years. Every day, he grew a little stronger not just in body, but in heart. One sunny morning, he invited Aisha to the balcony. "Look at the city," he said. "It never stops moving, but sometimes we forget to see it. You have taught me to notice life again." Aisha gazed at the horizon, smiling. "Life is always moving, sir. But it is up to us to keep moving with it, even after pain or loss." Zayn's eyes softened as he watched her. The mansion, once a place of cold walls and silent rooms, was now filled with warmth, laughter, and hope. He realized that healing was not about money or medicine, it was about trust, love, and courage. He reached out, placing his hand gently over hers. "You came here to save your mother, and in the process, you saved me too." Aisha's eyes shone with tears. "Then we are both healed, sir." From that day, their lives changed. Fatima returned home, healthy and smiling. Zayn continued his work, but with a new heart, one that understood kindness, patience, and hope. Aisha never stopped fighting for him, never stopped encouraging him, and never stopped believing that miracles were possible. And in the quiet moments, when the sun dipped behind the city, Zayn would look at her and whisper softly, "Perhaps the greatest wealth in life is not money, but the courage to love and be loved in return." Aisha smiled, knowing that every sacrifice, every tear, and every moment of struggle had led to this: the freedom of her mother, the healing of a broken heart, and the beginning of a life filled with hope. And so, the poor girl who promised to heal a paralyzed billionaire had done more than anyone could imagine. She had reminded the world and herself that love, courage, and hope were the true miracles of life.